watching Rogers TV London.
Welcome back to the show. RogersTV.com is our website. You can like us on Facebook and also follow us on Twitter at Daytime London is what you're going to find. Another great website that you could check out is kaylaslifenotes.blogspot.ca. Why should you check that out? Well, if you've ever wondered what it's like living with diabetes, this gal can answer all of those questions. Kayla Brown joins us here on the show. It's good to have you here. We both had the chance to read some of your blog, and we were both intrigued by your story. Tell us your story.
So I was diagnosed when I was 18. After that, it was just kind of trying to figure out what to do with diabetes. My grandparents had type 2, and I figured it would be similar, but it's nothing at all the same. I was on 4 injections a day. Having to check my blood sugar 4 times a day, and eventually after that I turned to the insulin pump to try and relieve myself from some of those pricks.
What I find fascinating in just you telling your story, and we get this feeling from your blog, is you have such an optimism about you, and you're telling your story with a smile. And you know, in most cases like this, you wouldn't see somebody smiling about that. Where do you get your optimism from?
I don't even know really where it comes from, but when I was diagnosed, I was sitting on the hospital bed, and the doctor's like, "Why are you smiling?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You were just diagnosed with diabetes." And I just kept smiling, and I don't know where that came from. I guess that was my way of coping with it, being positive about it, getting involved, and that's kind of why it's been a positive experience for me, because I'm on top of my blood sugars, because I see how other people live with it, and I'm connected with the community.
At what age are people generally diagnosed with type 1? Because you were 18 years old, and you got to figure at an age like that, that's got to be a rough thing to deal with. I mean, for you, you managed to do it with a smile, but I would imagine for a lot of people, that's a pretty rough age to hear news like that. Yeah,
well, it's usually diagnosed within childhood. I find that a lot of people are diagnosed between, say, 3 and 12. That seems to be a popular age to be diagnosed, but I do have a lot of friends that were diagnosed later in life, even in their 20s, with type 1 diabetes. So it isn't uncommon, but definitely it's a big change once you've lived your life I was almost 19, so almost 19 years not diabetic, and then just to be diagnosed with something that you had no experience with before.
So you're taking your story and you're actually going out into the community and doing a lot of public speaking. What is the one thing that surprises you the most about your audience? Their lack of knowledge, perhaps, or what surprises you?
Yeah, I guess there is a lot of misconceptions about type 1 versus type 2 diabetes, so I do get a lot of questions about, well, you're not old, or questions where just kind of you have to educate them a little bit, which is fine, because, I mean, I was ignorant to it before I was diagnosed too, so I understand that. But I guess my surprise of the audience is how people enjoy what I write and enjoy what I do, even if they have type 2 diabetes or they're not connected to diabetes at all. So I guess that's the biggest surprise to me.
Well, it is I hate to say it, but it is yours is a fun story to follow along because you are such a fun-loving person. But what originally inspired you to start the blog?
So I was diagnosed March 13th, 2009, and I started the blog March 16th. So as soon as I was out of the hospital, I started writing. I was writing on Facebook to kind of give everyone an update where I'd been for the past little while, and then I realized that it was kind of nice for me to kind of get that out, so I always call it my diabetic therapy, because if I'm crying behind the laptop trying to get all these feelings out. So it just started from there. I mean, I was brand new, diagnosed. I have everything documented 3 years later, so it's kind of just my therapy, I guess.
One of the most interesting blogs that I read was about you being on vacation, wearing a bikini, and having an insulin pump. Tell us about that.
So it is a little difficult, and before I left, I was kind of contemplating whether or not to bring my pump with me or to switch back to needles, because you can do that. And I decided I'm going to bring my pump. Like, I want these buffets. I want to be able to push the buttons. So it is hard. It's hard to kind of manage it while wanting to swim. But I mean, I've done it before, so it was just unclip it, put it in the bag, go for a swim, come out, check my blood sugar, put it back on. A couple people asked me about what my site was. They were actually both from the Dominican, so they were very forward about it. But yeah, I don't mind wearing it. I don't mind people seeing it, so I'm comfortable wearing it.
Well, and people asking you about the site really just initiates a conversation, and really isn't that kind of what your blog is for anyway? It's you know, to kind of get people involved, right?
Yeah, and I did feel like I educated a couple of the people from Dominican when they asked me, and they're like, oh, people don't have diabetes here. And I was like, oh, and I researched it, and it's like their third cause of death in Dominican. So, I mean, a lot of people are uneducated there, but I think she was happy when I explained I could eat whatever I wanted and everything like that.
Are you a daycare teacher still?
Only in the summers.
In the
yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
When you have kids around you, and kids are there's no filter on kids, so
Yeah.
they just ask questions. What kind of questions are they asking you, and do you think they're getting it?
Well, daily I would be asked what it was, and I just tell them it was my medicine, and then it goes in my belly. And so they would want to see the site and everything, which I was fine with. A couple of times if I was working with toddlers, they'd try to pull on it or stuff like that. But I feel like they did kind of understand the fact that it was giving me medicine and that I needed it, but I'm not quite sure if they grasped the whole idea. But I babysit a lot, and they like to ask questions.
You can follow Kayla's story at kaylaslifenotes.blogspot.ca. Kayla, thank you so much for stopping by. All right, if you want to learn more about the history of diabetes and specifically about the Banting House, well, stick around. We'll be right back. It is a